Alright, so I want you to read out these questions and answer them.
Is there any means by which any number of individuals can delegate to someone else the moral right to do something which none of the individuals have the moral right to do themselves?
Like, if it's not moral for me to do it, can I tell somebody else to do it for me?
Which none of the individuals have the moral right to do themselves. I feel like that question could be simplified.
I just did, like, if I don't have the right to do something, can I tell somebody else to do it for me and have it be a right thing to do?
That's just the question is just asked poorly. So they don't have the moral right, but a group can try to make a moral right.
Right, like if I'm a politician and I want to get the police to do something for me that I can't do myself, is it right for the police to do it?
Well, no.
Yeah, right. Obviously, no. No.
Do those who wield political power, presidents, legislators, etc., have the moral right to do things which other people do not have the moral right to do? No. Why? I mean, how would that work?
Exactly.
If so, from whom and how did they acquire such a right? No, they're elected officials. They're supposed to...
Poll rights.
Yes, they're supposed to be... Well, that just kind of makes me think of truck drivers. They learn more rules of the road. So when they get pulled over for breaking a rule of the road, they get a harsher penalty. Because they are more aware of the rules of the road than the average driver. So a politician should be more aware of our rights. Well, and that's what they say too. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
There's so many laws, though, it's hard to know.
We don't get an updated handbook all the time.
Exactly.
I don't know when a law is passed. Nobody fucking sends me a letter. Nobody calls me and says, hey, by the way.
Right, did you hear about the masks becoming illegal when it happened? Did you get any kind of anything from anywhere?
The mandate?
Yeah.
Was, yeah, on social medias and shit like that, but it's like...
Right, but you should have been sent something in the mail. If it was becoming a law and you were going to be affected by it, they should have notified you.
For sure.
Nobody did.
No, they just assume. They just assume that everyone watches TV or they have fucking Facebook or something, or they'll hear it from somebody else. No, that's the thing. The ignorance of the law is no excuse is bullshit. I've never gotten a list of the rules.
No, neither have I.
When I sign up for a lease, there's a list of rules.
Exactly.
I look through them, I sign. I say, yep, I agree with them. That's the thing, too. That's always got me about just being born into a government. I didn't agree to any of this.
No, nobody did.
There was never once that anyone asked me.
People say, oh, you should move out of the country if you don't like it. No, if I don't like it, I just don't like it. And that's my right not to like it.
Is there any process, constitutions, elections, legislation, by which human beings can transform an immoral act into a moral act without changing the act itself? that'll that's that shit gets me though too. Is like we made up morals. So for something to be deemed immoral, well, some people may not agree with that. So I think these questions seem kind of loaded. Is there any process, constitutions, elections, legislation by which human beings can transform an immoral act into a moral act without changing the act itself? Well, I think that's an interesting question. But I feel like it's loaded. Obviously, you would say no. Yeah, well, you can't turn something immoral into moral.
Right.
But what's your definition of morality?
Would it be moral to take something from your neighbor just because you deemed it right? That's an immoral act. It couldn't be turned into moral, no matter how you looked at it.
That depends on your sense of morality.
Mm.
There's a lot of different religions and they all have different ideas. It doesn't make them right. There's a lot of different countries with a lot of different laws. It doesn't mean that any one is right. You can do certain things in other countries that you can't do in this country, or vice versa. But who's to say any of them are right? That's my beef with morality. It's made up. We made it up.
Well, you're the judge. You have to live with your actions. So you're the one that has to make those decisions. And you might not like the outcomes, the consequences if you are immoral. So it takes some introspection. But most people, if they've really thought about what they were doing, probably wouldn't do immoral acts. Because they know.
Yeah, we get into this gray area too where kind of Robin Hood situation. Maybe not even Robin Hood, but
Kyle Rittenhouse.
that too. Well, let's say some kid who is not responsible for his own, which kids are, they're taken care of by their parents, and the parent is not doing their job. And that kid takes it upon himself to go out and get what he needs, but the only way he can do that is to steal. And that is to make sure that he survives. Is that kid wrong? What is he supposed to do?
I think the structure of his family and friends and life is wrong. Like, if we went back to neighbors caring about neighbors, that shit wouldn't happen as often because people would be looking out for the people like that.
Right. That's how it should be, but that's not how it is.
It can be. We just got to stop hating and start caring.
Alright, so the next question. When lawmakers and law enforcers use coercion and force in the name of law and government, do they bear the same responsibility for their actions that anyone else would who did the same thing on his own? Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of the executioner argument, right?
What do you mean?
We make rules, laws, and we say if you do this, then you need to be put to death. Isn't the executioner a murderer? He's just a sanctioned murderer. I've said that about the military. I've said that about war, the military. Murder is illegal unless you're wearing the right uniform and following a certain person that tells you to do it. So you can go over and just murder people in different countries because someone told you, well, they're the enemy. But if I just told you, hey, my neighbor's the enemy, go kill them. They're
Yeah.
they're
If you pay me, then
yeah, I pay you. They're putting us in jeopardy. You need to go kill them.
yeah.
Well, what's the difference there? Oh, because I'm not of a certain standing.
Both of those people in that situation that went and killed that person should be killed because they're technically both murderers.
So that one I can definitely get behind. Number 5. When there's a conflict between an individual's own moral conscience and the commands of a political authority, is the individual morally obligated to do what he personally views as wrong in order to obey the law? Well, no. Just because it's law doesn't mean it's right. We've seen that countless times in history.
Exactly.
No. And I feel that's our duty, is to oppose things that we know.
It's in the Constitution.
Right.
If you're under tyranny, that's the whole point of having guns.
That's the whole point of the well-regulated militia.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure that the government is not overreaching.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, too. That's where democracy really comes in. And that's where we don't have democracy. This whole elected official bullshit, they do our choosing for us. And that's the thing, too. They talk about their constituents and they're trying to please their constituents. They do what they want, no matter what. They'll do public polls, and that's what fucking really gets me about Wisconsin and the whole weed legalization thing. Is there's a good amount of states where they'll actually put it to a vote. And they'll let the people vote, which is what it should be. That's democracy. We need to hear the people's opinion. But then you have Wisconsin, who it's got to go through a legislative process. And the elected officials, they'll choose what's right for you. Fuck that. What the fuck happened? Why are we here? Where did democracy die?
Basically, in the 80s when they decided to make corporations basically people, they have the rights too, and they decided that everything's got to be outsourced and chopped in half, and everything goes to the CEOs now, and those CEOs are so rich they can afford to buy a politician.
Ice Cube's got a song that says that. He said, "For my birthday, buy me a politician." And it's like, yeah, the song is called "Everything's Corrupt."
Sounds like a good song.
It was a more recent song, definitely within I think it was within the last 5 years, dude. And it didn't really gain traction.
Just like Immortal Technique.
Yeah.
he's kind of still on the fringe.
But that's Ice Cube, man.
True.
Huge. Everything's corrupt. Everything's fucked up. Everything's by the book. You shit out of luck. It's good, man. And you say, for my birthday, buy me a politician. And dude, man, that was good, but
Well, that's what's sad though too, because that stuff is all out in the open, out in the public. People know this. They know it, but they're just so blindly following and ignorant. It's
well, and then you get people like us too that say the same thing. Where do you start and what do you do? You got to have enough people
right
to start this, and so many people are fucking brainwashed. You can't. It's
well,
so hard to find people.
That's why I was actually hoping that Dan and Cody would have stayed, because if you get 6 friends, get them to know all the techniques and how to fucking deal with this shit and what's going on, and they can have 6 friends and teach them. And if we keep doing that 6 by 6 by 6, we'll have the whole world in on it.
You know how hard that would be?
6 degrees of separation. It happens. Like, I know somebody that knows Keanu Reeves. You know? Like, you get to 6, and basically you've got the world.
Yeah, but do you know 6 people who are like-minded?
I know at least 4 off the top of my head.
Well, that's the thing too with Dan and Franklin. They're Franklin more so. He sees what's going on.
I actually think he's watching Mark Passio because he made a comment on Facebook about people being clown shoes, and that's a Mark Passio thing. We're like hardcore.
Dan's really opening up to a lot of the shit. I used to try to spew all this shit to him, and he didn't really care, you know. But now that he's really starting to see, especially with this coronavirus lockdown stuff, the masks. He's like, this, fuck this.
He's got a kid now, so he's thinking about that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, if you're responsible for another person, you're gonna be thinking about what's best for them and what's going on in the world. Like, you gotta. Otherwise, you shouldn't even have a child anyway, or someone to be responsible for.
I don't want to get into the whole natural law debate that we were talking about, but that was like a part of my argument too, was watching my kids grow.
Right.
And watching their natural behaviors, and it's usually greed and selfishness. And
right. And you have to slowly teach them just like you do with reading and writing and
there's a lot of love and stuff too. That's natural. I mean, the smiles, the pleasure, the happiness. That's a lot of it too. But
well, your kids are super happy most of the time.
Yeah, they are. Which is weird because.
Well, they have had consequences and they know, like, that shit happens and.
Yeah, me and Amanda just a lot of times we feel like we're too strict and stuff, and so, but I just believe in that you need discipline. Discipline is
right.
You need self-discipline as an adult, and to not learn any kind of discipline as a child, you're so behind.
Right.
Because
I think that's why they're doing all this separation of men from their families. Like, it's not just a black thing either. Like, that happens to everybody.
Yeah, I think through programming and stuff, that's the thing. It's been a long time coming. The black culture and the absent father, but it's glorified, glamorized. And is that because of the programming?
For sure. They own the mass media, so they can say whatever they want and make it true.
Right, and that's the thing too. The media portrays black people as thugs and shit like that, and so then they go out and do thuggish shit to try to fit in,
right.
And then they go through the prison system, so they're consuming the media, they're watching the movies about thugs, they're becoming thugs by also consuming the rap and shit like that, the music, and then they go through the prison system and they're once again paying into these people that are swindling them. It is a good rat race, fucking
self-made maze.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it definitely is. Just buying into the stereotypes, buying into the narrative that they have to be this person, and that's really coming to light lately, especially with all these protests and stuff. So many. I watch a lot of black people on YouTube that are more conservative minded, and they're just like watching all this shit unfold, and they're like, just stop doing what you're doing, stop doing this, stop buying into the narrative.
Right.
You don't have to do that. And look at all the successful black people that are in this country. You don't have to be one of those people in prison.
Well, and a lot of people found that whole display at the NFL first game to be like, you people are rich. Yeah. What are you complaining about?
It's getting worse too. It's going to the NBA, fucking MLB.
And we were talking about this last time too. Like, there's so many black people in like sports. They dominate us.
Well, Lil Wayne said it really well. They asked him, and they were kind of baiting him on the news. you know, oh, what do you think about BLM? He's like, who? So Black Lives Matter. So what's that? It's a movement for black people because they're oppressed. And he just kind of like laughs. He's like, okay. And they're like, well, what do you think about, you know, racial inequality? He's like, I'm a young, rich black man in America. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He goes, you know what? When I'm at my shows, I look out at the crowd, and at least 50% is white, if not more. So I don't see racism because they're buying my fucking albums. What does that say? And dude, it's crazy. And then, but his main thing, the reason why he never grew up with racism, is because when he was young, very young, 6 or 7, something like that. He was young, 8 maybe. He shot himself with a pistol in the chest on accident. He was fucking around with a pistol, shot himself. Cops came. He was laying on the floor. Black cop came in first. This is his story. Black cop came in, jumped over him, started searching the house looking for drugs.
Wow.
And he remembers that. That he came in and he announced it that, oh, look for the drugs, you know. And he said, I think he said multiple cops jumped over him and were looking for drugs. A white officer was like the third one in the door. And he got down on the floor and he was trying to help him. And he's like, do you guys not see this boy laying on the floor dying? Like, what are you doing? What are you worried about? And he said, so a white man saved my life. And the black officer was looking for drugs. He's like, so that was enough right there to show me that racism doesn't exist. You know, it sure does, subjectively, in certain cases. But I thought that's...
Well, and that mentality was going down so much until this whole BLM thing started, too. Like, I didn't notice it as much, but I wasn't focusing on it, I suppose, because it's not a thing to focus on.
No, it's not. It's not worth focusing on, and yeah, it's all of a sudden ramped up. Now we're fucking racist. Everyone's racist again.
Right.
Dude, there's such good pictures of Blake and Maverick. They're fucking best buds, dude. Every time they get together, they're so happy to be together. And that fucking worries me, dude, because for those of you who don't know, our nephew, Blake, is adopted. He's black. My son is white. They don't see that, but I know, oh yeah, oh my god, I got a cousin that's black, so I can't be racist. I got a friend who's black, so I can't be racist. Yeah, I know, that's another story that you're going to say, well, he thinks because they adopted someone into their family that he can't be racist. So fucking get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Just observing the relationship, and they don't see that. They don't, never once, I mean, there's 2 and 3, but never once have they looked at each other like strange and like touched each other's skin and been like, what's going on? They just fucking play.
Right. It's definitely a trait that is taught. But I mean, I suppose you could become racist because you get jumped by a group or something.
Then again, sorry to cut you off, but you want to talk about natural law, and this is something that I kind of came to on my own years ago. Raider was still alive. Racism is innate. Racism is natural. It's never going away. And it's just because it's the same way that we compare genders.
Right.
We say men can do this, women can do this, men can't do this, women can't do that. It's something to compare. And if we don't have differences, there's no comparison. And that's the thing. black skin, white skin. We want to see, well, what can the white people do? What can the black people do? Well, black people can do this better. White people can do this better. There's always going to be that comparison just because we are aesthetically different.
Mhm.
We look different. So there will always be comparison, no matter what. We're not going to get around that.
Right.
We need to understand that. We need to, but that's the thing too. It's what we talk about getting into a small community, like a small off-grid community where we all work together, we all have our own skills, we all have our own talents. That's the way we need to look at race. Black people are bigger and stronger, on average.
Right.
Clearly, they're dominating sports.
Mhm.
They're bigger and stronger. I don't want to really say that, but
They can be.
no, that's not what I'm getting at. I was about to go to the white people and what their traits are. And I feel like we're more manipulative. I was going to say smarter.